Okay, why don't we get started? Today is Monday, April 3rd, and it is 7:05. We call our meeting to order. We do have a quorum. And maybe we'll just go around and do a roll call of those in the room, and then the people who are participating remotely can say their name and the same room. So Jill?
Yeah, Jill Rocker, present.
Present.
Steve Callahan, present.
Peter Michelson present.
Abbott Aldrin present. Jeremy Marset present.
Bob?
Foxley participate remotely.
Okay. Sharon?
Sharon Tetro participating remotely.
Great, awesome. Okay, I will just disclose the meeting is being recorded. It will be made available on the website later. The first agenda item is approval of minutes. We do have a set of minutes that Jeremy sent around. Thank you, Jeremy. For March 6, 2023. Does anybody have any comments or questions on those minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Great,
Second.
okay, all in favor in this room, start with Jill.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
okay, Bob
Yes.
and Sharon.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so tonight we have a busy schedule. We have two department budget reviews, one for Park and Rec and one for the Arts Cultural Council. And then the town finance will take us through some compliance financial policy tests. We will then look at the operating budget and potentially take a vote on that. And then move on to some articles. And we have two citizen petitions that are also on the agenda. So with that, why don't we start with, you're lucky, you get your first on the agenda, Park and Rec. So Jill, do you want to give like an overview? Okay.
Do you want them to?
Yeah, you guys, why don't you
Table?
just sit at the table there and
Awesome, thank you for coming. So I'll just run through really high level, the budget request and just some of the increases that are reflected in the new report that was sent out. And then I'll turn it over to you guys to walk through the revolving account at that point. But we'll start with introductions for Katie. I'm not sure if you met everyone.
yeah.
Thanks so much for getting on board and getting acclimated with that whole process in Medfield. So the overall total budget request for fiscal year 2024 will be $334,255. This is the all-in with the cost of living increase, I believe. So the percentage from last year is a little bit higher because of that adjustment, given where we are in the schedule. About 7%. Last year's total approved budget was $311,625. So the Parks and Rec department has a pretty large program in town. Most of the budget is salary. The requested salary amount for fiscal year 2024 is $275,535. And that's up slightly. Again, it has that cost of living reflected in there as well. And then the operating expenses for 2024 are at $58,720. This is a slight increase up from last year, $51,900, which really it looked like it was in grounds and buildings and utilities like electricity, which we talked about. We've seen that across the board. So it wasn't surprising. Any questions on salary or operating expense or anything else you guys want to add? Forget it before we get into the revolver.
Revolving is where we do our best work.
Yes, yeah, it's the most fun, right? So, all right, great. I will turn it over. I know you guys did a little bit of work to go through that kind of, so it ended over the past couple of years. If you want to take a look at that, I don't know if we could pull it up.
Yeah, and I mean, anything before we go into the revolver, anything you want to add about, you know, your goals and objectives for the department over the next year, that might be helpful just to educate people that might not know. That would be good.
You want to take it now?
Sure. Okay, fine. So for FY 24, we have several fairly significant projects. Replacement of Hinkley Playground as the fundraising for that is well underway and close to completion. Along with that, we plan to upgrade the Hinkley bathrooms and card shack. With tremendous disrepair, or putting Band-Aids on it for the last several years. And along with that, right across and replacing the Hinkley shed. We're in the process of a field study audit. Our fields are used tremendous. Actually, we're probably back in the early 2000s. I visited Norwood before Katie was there, and they did an extensive field study audit at quite an expense, and we basically pirated just to get the parameters of what they were looking for. And we found that compared to Norwood, our fields are used 3 to 4 times more than theirs were. They allow certain athletic fields to go fallow for a period of time. We do not. And between our own programs and the high school using our fields have no chance to rest. However, you wouldn't know it by looking at it. Brian Schools, who we hired from the minor league team up in New Hampshire, he's done an unbelievable job where he has actually won a Massachusetts State Award for fields. And we'll be expanding our summer camp offerings. What we'd like to do is, we were really the only municipal summer camp running during COVID, the first year of COVID. I mean, nowhere else, certainly none of the overnight camps were running. But we had to curtail a lot of our programming. So we're bringing quite a bit of it back, including in the fall. Some of the programs that we have stopped, but that we will be bringing back. We'll be adding programming for adults. What we'd like to do during FY 24 is add a full-time staff member for programming and to help with our program. And right now, Christine can speak to this. We're looking for a part-time 20 hours a week to carry us through the summer. We're inundated right now. We have just Katie and our program coordinator, Jackie. They're handling everything, and what we don't want them is to be running the camps, physically running the camps where they're overseeing everything, and they have other duties and responsibilities. If we can help it, we get the personnel. So that would go a great way. And it would be part-time and be paid out of revolving. And we're hoping to finalize plans for a potential disc golf course across from the property. Well, one of our commissioners, Rod Tatro, he's been in quite in-depth conversation with one of the preeminent disc golf installers in the country, and they've already done a walkthrough, and it'd be a matter of getting permission from the selectmen. I know there are 12 acres up there for exclusively for municipal use. We're hoping to have access. It doesn't take that much room. It's basically a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
So
And that would come out of your revolver.
yes,
Is the plan for that? Yeah.
That was the last time this went to build what?
disc golf.
Disc golf, it's like frisbee.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know,
they have virtually no passive recreation, and it's been something that we've we've been thinking about for quite some time, and this is the perfect, this golf is, it's like,
Popular.
it's very popular, similar to, what is it?
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
Oh,
I know, and that's, I mean, ideally, we would have one, we'll probably do a pickleball league and play at others facilities.
Yeah.
So, it's just, no, it's getting back out of COVID and, getting to where really we were headed.
Yeah.
Before COVID. So, that is,
Question I had for you, Mel, was, I know we've tried to institute some new processes and procedures. Has the commission approved this budget? Are you guys,
which,
the budget request?
oh, yes.
Okay, okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Yeah, we didn't want to get ahead of you.
Oh,
guys.
no.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I mean, do you want to go through the revolver and talk about that, or how do we want to handle that?
Yeah.
Andrew, I know Andrew helped pull some of this information together.
So yeah, the revolving account is a bulk of what we generate, but also a bulk of what we spend. So aside from the budget, from operating, we are primarily, a revolving account, department. So we're just looking at right now what we are spending, how we can either, when we're growing programs, we're being able to, create more revenue for other bigger projects, so our special warrant projects. This year, hopefully, after being approved, will be our $85,000 to the guard shack, and then $12,000, which is all revolving. So when we're making extra revenue, we are then just putting it back into our program. So I'm using Mel because I've just hit 3 months today, but the last like 10 years or more, we've been using the extra money in revolving to do our projects for our special warrants. So we're looking at, I know this has been mentioned for our 1 through 5, looking at Metacomet will be coming up soon with a full overhaul of the tennis courts. We are looking at a possible venue for pickleball, but we have to identify that and how much that would come up with. But looking at the revolving, and Andrew can talk a little bit more, it's a bulk of what we take in and what we put out. So sometimes there will be a little bit more on the bigger side, but right now we in a recreation world, we upfront all of the summer costs. So we just took in half of our summer registration cost, and then the other half will come in by May 31st. But that is for our payroll. You won't see a true reflection of our revolving account until our summer camp in Hinkley Pond is over. So that's why you'll see a big, from March to April, May, a big sum of money sitting in our revolving account. But then come September, after our payroll is all done for the summer, you'll see it go right back down.
Okay. So that's why we see these subtractions and add backs on the deposits and stuff
Yeah,
like
so
that.
any of the summer deposits collected in advance, we don't count it as part of the balance in the account.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a pretty big discrepancy between our book balance that we report to the state versus what we actually have for cash on hand.
Mhm.
So
Okay, in the summer program, maybe, I don't know, maybe Christine could talk to this about just the change of procedures around collection of cash and, you know, how that's gonna get run this summer, I guess.
So we changed the policy townwide, out of part of Georgia. So we, my new policy is that no department can accept cash unless they are able to document that cash through either a cash register or a third-party piece of software. Most departments have chosen not to collect cash. They have a policy that they do not collect cash. I am slowly working. I just finished the town clerk's office. They are fully automated online. She collects no cash. My next victim will be the Council on Aging, and most likely Katie will be next after that. It's quite simple, to be honest with you. Everyone always has a credit card in their pocket.
Yeah.
Simple swipe, and I.
How will you deal with like little kids that might not, mom and dad might not give them a credit
We'll
card?
have that issue at the swim pond.
Yeah,
And,
So our MyRec system is our software system that we use for current registration, so we actually can set it up like a cash register.
okay,
So I've been talking with Owen, just being able to, get the device down there, have cellular rather than a Wi-Fi card, and then work with Georgia, because it is, it's like we have kids that have a $1, $2, they want to buy a candy bar or an ice cream, because it is a full service concession stand.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, like we don't do Venmo, we don't do, we only take either cash or credit, but then we also have to look on the flip side of it is how much that credit card, so in my prior position, we oversaw pools, and so those daily $5, Hinkley has $5, like, there's always some sort of cash, you're not gonna turn away a 10-year-old coming to swim at the pond, because we can't take cash, but hopefully working with Georgia, working with whether that's a daily deposit, a weekly deposit, we have a safe now at the recreation department. And I've been working with our Hinkley Pond supervisor for this summer, coming up with policies and procedures
Good.
for everything, even credit cards, just how do we process that?
So that software is essentially a point of sale system.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's great, that's great. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from anyone else? Bob or Sharon, do you have anything you wanted to?
What's the carryover?
Maybe just sorry, an opportunity
Oh, go ahead,
for,
Bob.
an opportunity for Katie to introduce herself in terms of her background and you know, being that it's her first opportunity speaking for the Warrant Commission. And also, she mentioned she's on her 3rd month anniversary, so any insights she learned in those first 90 days you could share with us?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm coming from a recreation background. I oversaw a $1.8 million budget before coming to Medfield, so it's a little bit less, but we can handle that. I've worked with grants before. Like I said, recreation, I served as the co-chair of the Metro West region for the state of Massachusetts. In 2020, I was the programmer of the year for the state. We were recognized from my last town for the involvement we had. We kind of co-steered the lead with Medfield. Having summer camp in a pandemic, we were one of the only towns. I came to Medfield because I wanted a smaller town. Coming from Norwood, it's a large town, but I also like the small feel. I like working with the commission. This is nice. We've never had one before. Like, I haven't worked for one. So far, so good. I just look forward to the possibilities here in Medfield. There's definitely opportunity to grow the programming. I think we do a really good job serving our 3 to 10-year-old groups. However, recreation has some sort of involvement for everybody. And if you look at our mission statement, as well as the recreation in the state, like we want to be able to serve not only our kids, but our adults and seniors. We're trying to bring back a ping pong night at the FAF Center, which I'm kind of excited about. We've already expanded in 3 months. We are part of a travel pickleball league with Millis, Medway, and Franklin. So they'll be hosting, we'll be traveling there. We did our first passive recreation programming, the Lucky Leprechaun in the park, that had over 500 families participate for free. So a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to expanding, but also creating opportunities, affordable opportunities for families. Things are going up, but with recreation families, you see 2, 3, 4 kids in a family, you know, times that by our summer camp, it might be a deal, but for a family, that's a lot. So excited for that. Yeah.
That's great. Your enthusiasm is contagious.
You
We're
mentioned capital, the expenditures for the golf and everything. Is that in the transfers out, and then looking at the revolver, is that the 97,000?
Yeah. So those are the projects that have been approved for, hopefully after town meeting, that will be coming out of the revolving account.
Okay, so that's that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing in, I don't see anything in the forecast for 24.
Yeah.
There is, yeah, that's in the capital budget. They have things that are now coming out of the capital budget.
Capital and stuff here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the Hinckley,
But then we take a look at the revolving account to see what in the like 2024, what can we afford? Because our capital projects are supplemented from our revolving account.
Right.
I think
It looks
the,
like you spend your revolving is down. I mean, I'm looking at the prior year balances that. $9,800, $8,400. Looks like the revenue and expenses basically offset every year. Very, very close. That's a management effort to keep that under control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't go negative. on it at all.
yeah, I think working with Andrew, they probably have a good plan to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I know in the capital budget, we had the repair of that Hinckley building. I forget how much it was,
85,000.
85,000.
And 12,000 to replace the Hinckley shed. So where
Yeah.
all the guards,
Yeah.
keep all their stuff.
Yes, yeah,
At the point of replace, not repaired.
I think they probably have a few health violations.
Can you speak to summer camp staffing and summer camp enrollment this year? How's that? Is that looking?
So we're actually very fortunate. Right now we have 54 applicants for camp counselors. So we are very healthy, but we are incorporating time off this year. So some of those applicants need 3 or 4 weeks off. So those will go to our sub pool. And then we are hurting for lifeguards. So it's a national shortage. We currently, a full staff for us would be 18. We have 12. We are currently working with a couple of indoor pools around to see if we can subsidize the cost. A lot of times lifeguards don't want it because they have to output $450 to $500 for a lifeguard certification. Most of the Metro West region has transitioned to paying for lifeguards to be. In Medfield, that hasn't been something that's done, so I didn't want to risk it my first year. So, but it is talking about that. We have Lynn, who is doing an amazing job recruiting, literally going to places and talking. But right now, our lifeguards, we did close applications, but we're going to reopen lifeguards because we're looking for 4 to 6 more.
Training for the pond.
Yeah, so that was just a couple things that the pond, that is going to cost the recreation department a little bit more money is some of the equipment. That has not even been there, that should be there, per the state regulation for an open waterfront. So you can either be an open waterfront or a pool, and even though Hinckley is very unique and man-made, it is an open waterfront. So we have to follow the laws of an open waterfront. So we have to be investing in some safety equipment as well as additional training because we are an open waterfront. So we have an instructor coming in from Medford to come in to train our lifeguards on open waterfront safety.
About the cleanliness of the water, do you have to test that?
Oh, yes.
On a regular basis?
From solitude, I just learned today. You know, me they're coming tomorrow to check it out. So yeah, so from the months of April to September, we have a management group come out every 2 months, every 2 weeks to test the waters. And so they treat the water. Our biggest issue is the snapping turtle that they come and migrate over. So there's not a lot of that stop that. But yes, we do have a treatment every 2 weeks.
Don't tell the kids about this.
No, the snapping turtle.
Good names for school.
All right, any other comments or questions for Mel and Katie? Well,
We're
thank you.
glad to have you though.
Yeah, we're very happy you're here in Medfield. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, I guess the next agenda item is the Arts and Cultural Council.
Yes. Okay, so, next one is Ron, I forgot that right, Ron. who's a contact for the Medfield Cultural Council. So the budget request this year, for fiscal year 2024 is 7,300. This is a 12% increase from the approved budget last year. So these funds represent, funds received from Mass Cultural Council, with the purpose of providing grants locally. It's part of the local cultural council program. So they'll do a lot around town, actually, as far as keeping the arts and performance activities flowing in the town. They also, I believe it's a reimbursement program, I believe, but the budget is to then start it off. They issue the grants out. They issue applications, submit to get the grant, and then they get reimbursed throughout the year. As the programs and projects kick off throughout. So just some uses from this past year and still happening through fiscal year 2023 as examples. They did projects like the Daffodil and Fairy House Festival. This past year, they've done.
Was that the one they did up at Hospital Hill?
I believe
Or
so.
the hospital at Ferry out there?
Yes, I believe it's one I chased my kids around. So it's unfamiliar. They'll do things like supporting the Dwight Derby House sign, the gazebo players in Medfield and the Shakespeare in the Park program that we do. They put together some funds for the Culture Fest, and they do things with the Peak House Heritage Center as well, kind of fund some of the programs that go through those areas in town.
So they apply for the grant, they get it approved up to a certain dollar amount, and then they can spend it within the grant requirements.
Yes, and they're
And they have flexibility within that.
correct. It has a big handbook on how they're to administer the funds. And they have to fill out not only their annual report, but an application every year.
Right.
Yes.
They do it every year.
Yeah, so slightly up from last year, but it's
Okay. Any questions for Jill on the arts and culture? Seems pretty straightforward.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I built into it.
Small dollar, but big percentage increase, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so is there, before we get into the town finance stuff, is there any other departments or budget line items that people think we have not discussed that we should? I did a quick check myself and I think we covered everything, but I just want to double check with everybody. Okay. Okay, so do you want to do you want to start the review of our
Sure.
the review of our financial policy test and talk about free cash, I guess, and then we can talk about the budget, I guess, the operating budget. I think it's after we do the.
Balanced budget.
Yay.
What else do you need to know? As part of the financial policies, we are required to complete the financial policy measure of compliance, which you'll find in the packet I gave you this evening.
This is the handout.
Yep.
You haven't seen this yet.
Everybody like that?
Came today.
And this has what was approved in fiscal year 23. The Board of Selectmen have already approved that the fiscal year 23 estimates that we used at last year's town meeting did in fact meet the financial policy. And those are online. You have a copy of fiscal year 23 as approved as well. And I'm very happy to report that for this compliance test, we actually were able to add a section in about whether or not we met the 9% compliance test. In the past, 7.5% for reserves as a percentage of our general fund expenditures. 7.5% has been the ceiling, the floor, basically. That was the minimum in which, and we had struggled, as you know, in 18, 19, and then in 20 to meet that. In 23, we met it with 8.7, and this year we exceeded the 9%, and we're estimating 10%. So really want to thank the Warrant Committee and the Board of Selectmen and the School Committee for really adhering to the financial policies and moving this compliance forward.
Excuse me for 1 second. Sharon and Bob, I did just email you this,
Yes, and it's available online as well.
yeah, what we're going through now. I just emailed it to both of you.
So this compliance test shows, obviously, we met the 7.5%. We met the next threshold, which would have been the 9%. And then our free cash balance, we are estimating that we will meet the 2.5% free cash on hand at the end of town meeting, and we're anticipating it to be 2.56.
Can you, do you know if you or Andrew knows the answer to this question, but of the $7 million of reserves, kind of what's that made up of? That I know, like there's the free cash piece, there's the general stabilization.
Yeah. So in the reserves, that is prior in fiscal year 23, it included the MSBA lump sum reimbursement reserve balance that we had. We finished expending that in fiscal year 22, so that was not available in 23 and 24. This is the stabilization fund balance. This is the reserve fund balance for the Warrant Committee. We set that at $170,000 last year. We set it $170,000 for this year. That is our capital stabilization fund balance after our town meeting appropriations, our free cash balance, our sale of land proceeds, and our MSBA interest reserve account. That makes it all.
Okay. So it includes the capital stabilization.
It includes capital stabilization. It does not
Not the
include the
municipal.
municipal building, which was funded through the dedicated override.
Okay. I mean, I think this is certainly an improving story to tell. It's a great story to tell, actually, a lot of hard work of prior warrant committees to get here. So, but it seems like we're exceeding our required range, I guess.
Yeah, we have 9 to 12% is the target goal.
Oh, 9 to 12.
9 to 12 is the
Okay.
target goal, with 7.5% being
The minimum.
minimum.
Okay, so we're not quite at the 12.
Yeah, but
What percentage are we at? Do you know?
10.04.
10.04. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
right.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
And then if you flip the page, I provided you a breakdown of what we anticipate using for free cash, where that ties into the measure of compliance with the free cash that we're required to keep on hand. I just wanted a breakdown for everybody as to exactly how we propose to spend that this year, which you've been reviewing all along, but it's nice to see once we get the budget balance that we have all of that in line.
And you have a cushion of 42,000, I guess. That's good.
Yes.
Good not to be too precise on the policy. That sounds good.
Just a question on the
Chris-
policy.
Hey, Christine, I know from prior town meetings, we've had this question. Could you just explain the difference between the general fund expenditures and the budget expenditures? Because I know that was raised on the floor a couple of times at town meetings, and just that
Yeah,
differential.
so the question that came up at town meeting a few years ago was, why is the budget worksheet that we keep at the summary at the beginning of the town report, warrant report, why is that different than what you see for the operating budget? The operating budget that you see, there's about 10 pages in the middle of your warrant report. That's the actual operating budget for each individual town department and or the school department. What you see in the budget summary in the beginning is all of the revenues and expenditures for the town as a whole. So there are several expenditures the town must make that are outside of those operating budgets, and those includes the capital stabilization, municipal building stabilization, your reserve fund, et cetera. You're welcome.
Quick man, now that, we're on a great road towards, following the financial policy. Is any chance that it's gonna, help improve our debt rating? in the near future?
I would like to think so. I mean, that's always been the goal when we started the financial policies was to continue to increase that.
Yeah.
And I know that building up our stabilization is something that Moody's has always stressed, when they met with us. So I think as long as we continue to move in that direction, we should see some positive impact from that.
But when is the next time we might have that? When is
I
the
would-
next debt issue?
Probably not until the next.
Well, I know when we borrowed the water treatment plant bonds, which were in,
September of 21.
yeah. They did comment quite favorably that that was the first time that we were able to show off our financial policy.
Mhm.
And we were able to sustain the same bond rating in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So quite possibly the next bond issue will most likely be a school project.
You're not making a promise we're gonna get AAA, are you?
I am not making
Okay.
any promises.
Okay, all right, all right.
It seems like we're putting our best foot forward.
But I
Yeah,
think we
yeah,
are moving
yeah.
forward with that being,
Yeah,
obviously, that would be an.
that would save the town a lot of money.
Yes, and it would be an incredible
we,
goal to
uh,
achieve that.
Got a AAA rating.
Better get some commercial base here if we want AAA.
Yeah,
That is
yeah, yeah.
better.
There's also
Yeah.
that contingent upon it.
It does help, yeah,
Won't be for mine.
yeah.
So it's not happening.
Well, we certainly don't want to go down, right? We want to maintain our AA.
Absolutely not. And I know we talked a little bit at the last meeting about the goal of our financial policies, and it's not just our bond rating, but it's also being able to survive, without doing significant budget cuts during the next downturn or recession. So there are multiple reasons why, we want to adhere to those financial policies and move this forward.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So this has all been posted online. This is available. Andrew is working on the final operating budget, as Bob alluded to a few minutes ago, and we should be ready to go print for the warrant report next week. Right after your meeting on Tuesday, no pressure.
so, so this budget is supported by the selectmen.
Yes, they'll be taking it up tomorrow night at their meeting.
They're gonna vote on this tomorrow.
Correct.
Select board, excuse me, good, thank you. Okay.
We're all getting. trying to
It's
get-
gonna take a while.
Muscle memory.
So. Okay, are there any questions on this budget worksheet that has, we've all seen numerous times and talked about numerous times, but it's basically, the latest update is just basically the change for the school, right?
The change for the reductions in the school, the town, and you will notice that the HR budget has been reduced, that cost of living has been distributed to the individual departments. So you'll see the
Okay.
departments that you had will now be slightly higher than what you were reviewing, because we've taken that and given that out to the departments.
Okay. Any questions on this? If there's no question, maybe we should entertain, we did have a motion, we did have on the agenda that we could vote on this tonight. And I know there's a reason why they want to do that, because they can move forward with getting the warrant ready. But I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to make it to approve Article 22 for the operating budget as presented, in the worksheet.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's go around the room.
Yes.
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 And yes, okay.
Great.
Operating budget approved.
Excellent.
You happy?
Yes.
Oh, Bob, well, excuse me, wait. We have two online here and in Zoom world, sorry. Guys. Okay, Bob, are you a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, and Sharon,
Yes.
okay, thank you for reminding me that. All right, so we have an approved Article 22. I have to remind me, can you text Chris to let her know that we're
I don't,
doing
if you
this?
can, I don't have her number.
Okay. Hang on just a second, I need to. get a citizens petition. Chris Potts wants to know when we're done this. Okay. All right, next agenda item is we have the school committee power purchase agreement, Article 26. Can you promote Megan and also is it Penny? Yeah, Penny and I maybe I don't know, this looks like it, is it just, well, we'll ask Megan, I don't know. Hi, Megan. Hi, Penny.
Hello.
How are you? Hi.
Great. Good. Okay, we're good to go.
Yes.
Excellent.
And well, hold on a second. Is that, do you want to say anything before?
We had
Okay.
an opportunity to speak a couple of hours ago, and I got a little preview, so, but I'll turn it over right away to David, because
Okay.
there's a lot of slides to go.
Yeah,
through, some of which we can go through fairly quickly, but
Yeah, we're hopeful you can kind of keep this short and concise.
I shall keep it short and concise. That's great. I'm happy to answer any questions. So I'm Megan Sullivan. I'm part of the Medfield Energy Committee, and I'm here with Penny Connor. Penny, we're so lucky to have her here. She has 35 years in the energy business. She runs energy strategy for Eversource, and she's also one of the co-leaders of the Energy Committee and runs the renewables pillar. So the two of us are excited to share with you the information about this warrant article. So let me just get my, oh, Frank, could you let me share? Please.
As a presentation sheet.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I thought if I promoted you, you'd be able to.
Yeah, it said disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, you have to let all.
That one fails.
Okay.
Just give us a minute.
Sure.
All right, you want to try now?
Yes. All right. Share that. And
Great.
this little thing out of the way, start the slideshow. All right. Are you seeing the slideshow?
Yes.
Look good? Okay, great. Okay, so Article 26, or yeah, 26. Very excited to share the details of the warrant article with you. I'm going to start with that and then highlight the financials and then present the benefits that include the ability for the town to save $1.6 million without any capital investment. So, oh, here we go. Here's Article 26, and I'm sure you've all had a chance to read it. It references 3 schools, which are the ones that we are currently talking about projects for at the moment with the school committee. I know it looks like it's a lot uncomplicated, but there's actually some precedent for it. But just to distill it, what this does is this article authorizes or allows the school committee to enter into power purchase agreements and lease authorizations for solar arrays. So it's not specifically doing that or committing to it. It's just authorizing the school committee to do it in the future. So there is some precedent for it. And that was back in 2021 at town meeting. We authorized Articles 17 and 18, which actually did this for the town properties. At the time, the town was discussing putting solar on top of the DPW building. And in order to continue to figure out what was best for the town in terms of what kind of array to put on that building, they needed the flexibility to know that they could do a PPA. So in June of, or I guess it was May of 2021, town meeting was asked to authorize this. And so it did this for the DPW building and other town properties actually, but that does not include the schools because of the way the care and custody works. So this is actually just going to bring the schools into kind of alignment with that allowing them to explore. And I will say that it was very helpful because it was in May of 2021 that the warrant articles passed. And it wasn't until a full year later, nearly a full year later, that we actually entered into a power purchase agreement with Select for the DPW. So you can see there's a bit of a kind of needing to know what your options are and then figuring out exactly what you're going to do. So we are excited about the PPA option. And to just be clear about what a PPA is, I will say that it's an arrangement, it's called a power purchase agreement, where the school would lease the space for the power purchase firm, in this case, Select Energy, to put solar voltaics on our property without any expense to us. And then we agree to purchase the electricity at a given price. So I wondered if anybody has questions about the actual impact of the article, but if not, I'll go on to talk about actually the projects that the school's thinking about.
Any questions so far?
No, I see the article does mention the select board and the Medfield School Committee. Are both boards required for approval, or who has jurisdiction?
I think this is just,
So
it's not the select board, is it? Is it?
He has jurisdiction for care, custody, and control. In working with several solar companies, they recommended that we cite the select board in the article as well, since they actually own the title. They thought it would be cleaner if we had both of them listed in there.
Okay.
So even though the select board already has permission, they thought it was legally better for them.
The sponsor of the article includes Medfield Energy Committee too.
Yes. Yes. And it, everybody good? Sorry. So
I think that's it.
okay, great. Thank you. So actually that kind of leads right to the next slide. I won't read all the details on here, but it was actually the Medfield Energy Committee that asked the school committee if they could lead on these solar projects in Medfield. As you know, in 2021, the town adopted a net zero goal of to be net zero in 2050. We've developed a climate action plan. The renewables pillar set out to see where we could put solar arrays, and the locations that bubble to the top are actually at the school properties. So it's our best choice to move forward at this time. We've been working with the school committee since the fall, identifying the properties, talking through some questions about them. And the best projects are the canopies at the high school parking lot, canopies at one of the Blake parking lots. There's a new section of roof that has recently been repaired on Blake, so include that. And then also a canopy at Memorial at the North Street parking lot. So those are the projects that are under consideration at this time. So in February, the school committee signed a letter of intent, which allows Select, who is a pre-approved vendor for this sort of thing, so you don't have to do an RFP. It allows them to have confidence that Medfield is interested in moving forward. They're going to do some more engineering. They move forward, apply for interconnection, and they also apply for the incentives. And so this is one of the steps along the way. The Energy Committee committed to the school committee that we would be very involved in outreach to the community about solar. And so that's right up our alley. So we're very happy to do that. We have a really comprehensive plan in May of 24. Sorry, that should say May of 23. Hopefully this article gets approved. Then hopefully in that month of May, early June, we have renderings that show people what this actually looks like. The incentives are finalized, the updated pricing based on the engineering Select is able to do. And whatever happens with tax incentives, it all kind of gets finalized. Then there's some negotiations, contract language, and the school committee then will make a decision about whether they'd like to go forward or not. And then assuming everything goes forward, the goal would be to begin work in the summer of 2024. So what are the benefits? Here is a great benefit. It's financially beneficial. And this might, oh, sorry. Can you see? I'm looking at all of you, so I can't see all of it. So this slide shows 3 school locations, the size of the arrays, how many kilowatt hours are generated in a year. Overall, these 3 locations will produce 76% of the need of those buildings. And then here's where we have a little bit of flux, I guess, not indecision, but we don't quite know where this will land. We're hopeful that we land in this incentive block here, number 7. That is like the high end of our range for incentives, or it's possible that we might fall to block 8, in which case the incentives would be less. But this is an example of why time is of the essence. The faster we move forward, the more lucrative the incentives are from the state. So overall, over 25 years, we anticipate a range of savings between $1.7 and $1.5 million, depending on which block we end up in. So, and then for no capital investment, we think that's really a terrific opportunity for the town. And so I put together this next chart. Ed, I think you'll appreciate it. I pulled it together this afternoon, so I apologize for its rudimentariness, but you can see that the town right now in year 0 pays about $250,000 for that 76% of electricity for those buildings. And what we're proposing to do is to stabilize the cost of that electricity over 25 years. So we'll agree on a price and it will stay the same for 25 years. What happens in this other line here is that you expect that the price of electricity will increase. So this is the annual cost of grid delivered electricity. And so anything in this area then is the savings to the town. So as steep as this is, or as shallow as it is, creates the savings for the town.
This savings is actually in the school budget, the energy.
Yes,
line during the
yes,
school budget.
yes. That's correct. Yeah.
So going forward, when you look at the school budget, you'll consider, this gets approved, you'll consider this and then.
It would have to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
This project, and Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, won't affect us for a while, because this is like an 18-month project on these, let's call it 4 projects, the 3 parking lots and the roof. Like, they have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, they have to be done within 18 months of signing the agreement. So you won't see any benefit for a couple of years, but.
Yeah, it's not going to affect FY 24, but
Yeah, after that you will. And that increase there, that red line, that is based upon the historical increases in kilowatt hours.
I will say,
Correct.
to my knowledge, it's just an estimated. It's an estimate that the price of electricity will increase 2% annually. Going
it
forward.
seems like conservative. That seems like a conservative
Yeah.
estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all see in our bills at home.
Right, so it's.
If it's higher than that, the savings is greater. So
Right.
Exactly.
yeah.
A question about the blocks, I believe. How do you qualify for block 7 versus block 8?
Great question. It's actually just a matter of timing. If we had, done this 2 years ago, we could be in block 5 and it would be even more lucrative. So over time, as those blocks fill up, it's called a tranche system. When they fill up, you move to the next one. And the energy, the utilities everybody's incentivizing you to get going early. And then hopefully, they're hoping that by the end of the incentives that the market is just able to take, does not require the incentives. So it's just a matter of us moving early. And that's actually, and the thing that happened with the LOI is that Select is working on putting in the application so that we land our spot. And this is actually one of the things too that happened when the town did the DPW garage, right? They voted the authorization for it and we got the spot and in the DPW tranche. So it actually, works to your advantage to move early and works to your advantage to move early. So did that answer your question? About the 7 and 8? Great.
Another quick one. I'm always curious, if we're saving that much money over 20-25 years, depending upon whether it's on the roof or in the parking lot, and Eversource must make on that incremental power that we generate obviously enough to offset. I mean, they have the same price, but 25 years. You wonder, how do they make their money? I'd always like to understand a little bit better, maybe the energy person.
Well, Penny probably could answer
Yeah,
that.
Penny
better,
could
yeah.
probably answer that.
Well,
How do, you know, how can you give away that, have a price that's fixed and still be profitable?
Right, so, first, the folks who would make money on this would be Select. They are the ones who are financing and building it. And so, yes, their purchase power agreement, while it does save the town money, will allow them to recoup their investment. How does all of this work? It is because the state is very keen on achieving the net zero goals by 2050, and renewables is one of the key strategies that's in place. So they have been encouraging more renewables, and the SMART program, which is the tranches that we're talking about, is one of the additional incentives that's associated with it. So these installations will allow us to take that benefit, but there is, if you ever look closely at your energy bill, we're all paying fees in for renewable energy and to support the state in creating and supporting these various projects. So it tends to be the additional cost associated with these is currently a socialized cost that comes across to all customers over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
think-
Solar Select or whatever, they obviously are incurring the finance charges, right?
They're taking the risk on the project. I am personally, all of these come through, the ones on Eversource territory come through my team. And I had my team personally look at this purchase power agreement. We see all of them. And our feeling was that this was a very fair agreement. But yes, Select is in the business of building these. They do make money off of these. That's their business that they're in, but their niche is that they are known for working with the local towns to create these solutions. Many of the solar providers, commercial wise, don't really want to work with these smaller installations, but Select is very good in this space. So I can feel good about them being recommending this and doing this purchase power agreement with them.
Thank you.
So while we don't have any capital expense, do we lease the panels or there's zero expense for that?
Well, they lease the roof space to
Right.
Select, so they put the panels on there. So we
Okay.
don't own the panels.
We just see the benefit.
We're just leasing the roof space.
Okay.
If
They're
there's a problem
paying
with the
us to,
panel-
yeah, they're paying us to lease the roof and to generate energy, and they're bidding that energy into the energy marketplace. And also bidding the associated renewable energy credits. So there's actually two revenue streams that Select will be benefiting from. One is the actual energy that's produced. The other is that electric companies, all of the utilities in Massachusetts have a requirement to secure renewable energy. So those renewable energy credits also have a value in marketplace, and that's been going up increasingly.
Does Select also own the pedestal and the where the parking area is?
Yes, they would be putting up those canopies. The canopies are typically a more expensive way to secure solar energy, but definitely one that brings ancillary benefits of providing coverage and shade in the summer and the elimination of snow removal in the winter. So there are some benefits to the canopies.
Those canopies are, the agreement is they have to stay in place for 25 years.
Right. It's
That
20
is
roof and-
correct. And Megan has a whole team that is just doing an amazing job doing outreach to the communities to provide them visuals and explanations about these particular projects. We recognize that we need to engage everyone so that they're aware of the investment. But the wonderful news is that in the town of Medfield, who is committed to delivering net zero by 2050, our schools can be the leaders in this space. And not only does it deliver savings to the school, it reduces your carbon footprint
And I believe provides an educational opportunity that I'm sure the schools will want to leverage as students look and are able to see the schools being a role model and being able to measure the savings and benefit that they're contributing to the environment.
One more question.
Okay.
In the event this thing ever went sideways, for whatever reason, either because of it's not working, for what, is there any type of out provision for the schools? If just, I doubt it's 99% sure it's gonna be savings, but if there was something that we're not thinking of, and is there any out provision for the schools?
I will need to come back to you on whether there is an out provision. That the PPA puts the risk on Select. So if the panels are not producing, they are not making money, but they've still committed to us to provide us energy at the price they've committed to. So we've really removed the risk element associated that would be associated if we were building the panels and maintaining the panels. They own that risk. They are committing to us a price certain that we will pay going forward for the energy. And that is the assurance you can take.
If something goes wrong with those panels, they want to fix it right away. They have an incentive to keep them,
So I had two questions,
Yeah.
but Ed just put a third one in my head. So following up on Ed's question about an out provision, wild hypothetical, there's an incredible breakthrough in fusion technology and cheap non-solar energy becomes available at a quite reasonable price. Pretty ridiculous hypothetical, but not an absolute impossibility. Do we have an out in that very wild hypothetical?
We will double check.
I'm not saying I oppose the project.
We will double check, but I believe the answer is you're signing a purchase power agreement to buy that energy for the next 25 years. And there is, yes, you are then, the risk the town is taking on is just that there is some breakthrough and energy miraculously reduces in price. Now, I'm in the energy business. I've been in the energy business 35 years. What I see coming at us is a lot of investment that needs to be made. Not in the generation side, generation also, because as we build offshore wind, but keep in mind, there's investment that's going to have to be made in transmission systems to bring that renewable power from offshore, onshore to the load centers. So there's new investment that's going to be needed over time in the distribution systems as we electrify customers who today are heating with fossil fuels, and we're encouraging them to move to electric source. So as I look forward, even if generation pricing reduced, I still see the overall all-in supply of energy is going to, of course, this is only the supply piece, but I think it's unlikely, but yes, you are taking on that risk.
Okay. So an additional question, when the panels go up, can that mostly be done during summer months? Or is it going to cross over into the school year?
We've been discussing that with the school and we're very hopeful and are planning, hope is not a plan. So we are planning to do this where it is not invasive to the school schedule.
And 8 years down the road, when bad weather returns to New England in winter, one or more of these towers fall and crush a couple of kids' cars. Does the energy company have to carry insurance on these panels and towers?
That is a question I'll have to follow up with you on about the insurance Select keeps associated with if something happens on those canopies.
Okay.
A good question.
I had a question as well, just talking about an out. Is there early termination in the agreement?
I don't believe so. I don't know for sure, but I don't believe so.
Have you guys ever had to work with towns where they wanted to, you know, add on to a school, renovate, and you had to move panels. You keep the panels same size, but you move them or put them on a roof.
There would be, if there was a situation where we wanted to have an adjustment on the panels, that would be another project that we would have to consider, and they would have to go back into the contract. We recognize that, in the solar committee, that I'm very fortunate to work with in Medfield, and you know, all of you, first, I thank all of you for your volunteering your time. And I am so grateful to the many experts that volunteer their time to support our renewable committee. But part of the reason we've been working so closely with the school is that the solar is predicated often on the condition of the roof. There are many more projects I look forward, and our committee looks forward to bringing forth to the school committee, but it's not the right time because the roofs aren't in a position. They haven't been re-roofed, or there's other work expected. So we are working with the town planner to look at what's coming forward. So what we're recommending here, we're not expecting to have to change in 20-25 years.
Yeah,
Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Who oversees the contract once the infrastructure is up? Is it building and facilities? Like, who's verifying, whose purview does it fall under to verify the rates that we're getting charged and seeing like on an ongoing basis? Is it capital?
I see someone raising their hand in the back of the room there. That Christine's.
Okay. So there's an issue with the panels, this office making the phone call saying, okay, we got a panel out.
Between myself and Michael Offord.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because we have an existing PPA on the town garage. We own 2 solar arrays, and this is we have a PPA in the garage, so we're having used to how we have to.
Got it. Got it, okay. And the second question is it a one-time tax credit or an ongoing tax credit, 30% or whatever that might be?
I think it's one time, but Penny, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know off the top of my head. No, sorry.
That doesn't affect us.
Yeah,
That's Solar Select's issue. Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
We don't. Here you pay taxes, to the federal government.
Oh, okay. It was a time of the year that's in spreadsheets.
Any other questions, Bob or Sharon? Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Megan, is this about it, or do you have more you want to tell us?
I can be done if you're happy. Or I have some examples. I can show you where the canopies are going to be. I can talk to you about what they look like.
Anybody want to see a picture of the, why don't you show us a picture of the canopies, and then, you know, I don't think we're going to vote on this tonight because there's some questions that are still out there that you're going to get back to us on, but it'll be helpful to see the canopy.
Okay, excellent. And just before we leave this slide, Penny touched on this. This is the electricity supply. There's a whole other component of the electric bill that's related to the demand side. So for the town, it's about, I would say, for this electricity, since this is $250, they're paying $500,000 for this, including the demand side. So I just don't, as you think about the electric budget, we're planning to stabilize this portion of the electric budget, but there is another component of the electric budget. Let's see. Okay, we've got this. You're going to save money, stabilize expenses, reduce carbon, and move forward. So we've got here the layouts of the parking lots. Can you all see this pretty well, or I have close-ups of each of these?
Yeah, we can see it.
So over here at Blake, it's this one parking lot, not the one that's going to get hit by baseballs at the moment. Down here is the new section of the roof that was recently repaired, planning to put panels there. The high school, this is the big parking lot adjacent to the field. And down here at Memorial, this is the parking lot off of North Street.
Okay.
Here is an example of a canopy. They still are going to, our canopies have not been designed or finalized. They might be wider spans. They could be, I think they might have a little jag at the edge, but this is what a canopy looks like. You can see them at REI. You may have seen them around town. So that's an example. We are getting better, we're getting renderings that we can use in our PR. We've got a comprehensive PR plan. Hopefully you've seen some articles in the newspaper. There's a survey out right now for the community to see how everybody's feeling. And I can tell you, everybody's feeling really good about solar in Medfield so far. We've got a program next week where we're going to talk about this, April 10th and 11th. We're going to respond to the questions asked in the survey. We're going to have another version of basically this conversation on April 26th, right before town meeting, in case anybody in town has a question about it. And then we're hoping we'll have a meeting specifically about the designs when the renderings are available. Little heart show where we're planning to get renderings of. And we encourage you to move forward now for all the reasons we've talked about, and, you know, keeps the door open and allows us to, in the school committee, to really be the most flexible with regarding solar, seize the opportunity to take advantage of any incentives that there are. And we didn't even talk about this, but there's a limit to the interconnection capacity, and it's great to be there first while there is plenty of room. So, again, Article 26, we think it's a win-win. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much, Megan, and thank you for that graph. I think that,
Yeah, that was a very good.
yeah, that's very helpful.
Yes.
I'm glad you, yeah, it was a great
Thank you.
suggestion. Thank you.
Excellent.
And
Well,
we
thank
will
you.
follow up
Thank you very
with
much.
the out provision and the impact on insurance. Those are the two follow-up questions. I just want to be clear so that we provide you the information you need so you can approve this. We really do appreciate your thoughtful consideration and interest in renewables. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Penny. And thank you, Megan. Okay. So I think what we'll do, since Mr. Green has been patiently sitting in the audience here, why don't we go to Citizens Petition Article 31, compensation transparency. And if you don't mind, if you could come sit at this table, that would be great. Yeah.
I want to tell you something about solar though. I just put an array on my building
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of promised somewhat to be in a certain block, 1 and 2. I end up in block 5 by the time Eversource got around to putting the meter on the building. So I just do a little area of, you know, what you're being told about block 7 and 8. You might end up in 10 or 12 and you're going to be making less money.
Less money, yeah.
Yeah, just, I don't know, something to consider.
It's good to know.
Anyway,
Well, thank you for coming in. And really just a chance for you to inform the committee here about your article and where you're at with it. And I understand that you worked with the town council to sort of, you know, get it into a shape where you have a motion that could be made on the a town meeting. And I've shared that with everybody. So
okay.
Everybody has that.
yeah.
So why don't you, I'll leave it up to you, whatever you want to talk about.
Just, I was working with town admin and town council to get a little more transparency with compensation for all the town employees from the top down, I guess. And, you know, I was hoping something could be submitted into the town warrant, but I guess it's not done that way. And I guess that's to go into the annual report as far as a list of salaries and compensations. So I guess as long as it's published somewhere, I'd be happy and hopefully other taxpayers feel the same way. And so, did you get a copy of?
We have a copy of your article and then the motion that you worked out with town council.
Okay.
And it seems like a fairly, seems like you've identified the section of the bylaw that requires an annual report, and you've come up with the wording to be added to that section, which I think is in proper form and the right way to do it. So it's I mean, I think you know, I think that the benefit of having it in the annual report is that if somebody wants to see it, it's there, they know where to go. It's also on the website. So it's available publicly to everybody.
Exactly. I know other towns publish this.
Yeah.
So I thought we should get up to speed with that too.
Yeah. Any questions by anybody else on that? Seems pretty, I think it's great that you worked with town council and came up with something that sounds like everybody's happy with, so that's,
Oh, good.
that's good.
So hopefully, it gets past the town meeting and, we don't have to talk about it anymore. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, let's see, we did this one, we did Article 26, we did 22. Why don't we do 27 real quick, and then we'll go into Chris, we'll talk to Chris, because should be an easy one. So Article. Oops, did we lose somebody?
Frank, could you demote me?
You can just.
I left so you can take me down, but it's popping me back in, so thank you.
Oh, very weird. All right.
Okay. So the Article 27, which is the change of hours for noise bylaw.
Yep.
Is yours, Mather,
Yep.
right? Yeah. You want to talk about that at all? Or?
Sure, well, I'll read the article to see if town will vote to amend the Medfield Town Code, Chapter 180, noise, Article 5, prohibited operations and activities, Section 180-5, prohibited noise by adding the following language in bold. Shall be prohibited between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and before 8 a.m. and after 7 p.m. on Saturdays, and before 9 a.m. and after 7 p.m. on Sundays, or do or act anything in relation thereto. So my question is, I'm not sure what it's changing from to now to what it is.
So the existing is in the article is 7 to 7. And then it's changing, it's adding so that you can't do it before 8 a.m. on Saturday or before 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Oh,
I think I did it that way.
Oh,
Better,
okay.
so,
So it's currently 7 is the change.
I guess 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And when it's changing, we'll go. so
okay,
you-
adding that extra hour prohibited.
Yeah, so an extra hour on Saturday and an extra hour.
So the bold print is what got.
That's
yeah.
okay.
Okay,
And this was sponsored by the select board.
Correct.
Have they rolled on, well, they sponsored. So
They sponsored it, so I assume they're going to vote in favor of it, which they will do tomorrow evening.
I'll be the pain here. And ask, and I am not someone who likes pickleball, but will this affect the hours when pickleball can play? Or do you know?
It would affect any noise, whether it's a commercial entity coming in to do leaf blowing, it could be you mowing your lawn at 7 a.m. on Saturday, you'll have to wait till 8 o'clock to do that, so.
Or
No, on Sunday, so no pickleball on Saturday before 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I will let
Not fighting words to me, but.
I will let Katie know, they plan their next pickleball court there, they'll have to change the hours.
Okay.
okay. And this is basically the discretion of your neighbor determining what is a suitable noise level as the to kind of
Yeah, the building inspector,
the building inspector.
Yeah.
They would be the people who enforce it. Okay.
But it's essentially complaint driven though, right?
100%.
Yes.
You know, we see that.
Yeah, as long as that's what we do right there, yeah.
So if someone's mowing their lawn at 6:30 in the summer, that light out till 9, they really have to stop
They should be stopping at 7.
at 7.
That's existing, that's currently.
Right.
I'm in violation. of that.
I'm in violation.
There's a whole bunch of people in violation. That's what I'm saying.
The neighbors are all fine with it.
So they're doing.
Yeah, it really depends on
Okay. All right.
Hey, this is Bob.
Okay.
When this comes up, I always thought it would be the leaf blowers. But I'm surprised by the conversation that it extends to any noise that anyone would call in question. I mean, is this really enforceable? How is this going to be enforced?
I mean, the gun club, I hear the gun club.
Oh, boy, that's a heck of a good.
Yeah. This is.
That's a heck of a good point.
I'm not trying to pick that bucket, I'm just saying, it's nice having the cops up there. Wall.
Well,
Yeah,
and to Matt's point, the cops will go up there?
No, but, well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, has anyone discussed how it's going to be enforced? Sounds like we're going to make a rule that,
Well, the rule is existing now,
Right.
7 to 7.
Yeah, I mean, so that gun club, if they're shooting,
Yeah.
outside those hours, that exists today.
Yeah,
They should be adhering to the 7 to 7.
they should be.
They should be.
Yeah.
Make a call tomorrow, I guess.
No, I'm not out there with a stopwatch, I don't have any clock, I don't.
So they would have to just change their,
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday would have to change.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that there's the chance when you introduce any change to an existing bylaw that most people in town probably doesn't know exists to begin.
Yeah.
Most people don't know there's a 7 to 7 noise bylaw. The noise bylaw does not limit, what actually can make noise and what can't. It's just a general noise bylaw.
Does that answer your question, Bob? It's not just leaf blowers.
yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's
No set decibel level anywhere mentioned, like kind of like what is, like the city has got, decibel levels for building equipment and all that kind of stuff, and you can't, exceed that with fan units and all that, because we don't have any of that, huh?
We would just like you to not start construction or leaf blowing
Right.
or.
It's just that. kind of thing, okay.
Any other questions or deliberations? I mean, what do people think? Do we could vote on this? We said potential vote on the agenda on this. Do we want to put a pin in this, or are you comfortable with voting on it tonight?
I'd be comfortable voting. I just don't
Yeah,
vote my vote.
I don't see
I
how
agree.
mine's changing much between now and next week.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll
To adopt Article 27 as written in Warrant and as just read by Mather.
a second,
Second.
a reluctant second. All right.
Like,
Don't
freaked out.
Who you take the notes? Don't put that in bold.
All right, let's take a vote then. Okay, Jill,
I'm gonna say no.
no,
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
I'm not in favor of this, no.
no,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so we have, oh, Bob,
Makes a difference.
Bob, are you a yes or no?
What's the count on that now?
I think there's 2 no's and the rest are yeses in the room here, 4 to 2.
Yes.
Tied up.
You're a yes. And
Yes.
Sharon,
I'm gonna be a no.
you're no, okay. So that's 3,
It was 5 to 2.
Oh.
7 of us here.
oh, so it was 5 to 2.
5 to 2, and how did that bother?
Bob said yes, Sharon said yes.
So we're
Say
6 to 3. 6 yeses, 3 no's. Okay. Okay. We'll have to figure out who writes the favorable and the dissenting views on that.
Just some bullet points. Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Chris, you're up next.
Well, next to me.
Okay, so this is Article 30, School Committee Public Hearings. And I will let you introduce, the article, tell us, why you think this is important and all that.
And I have to say, I think it was very opportune to have come from the strategic planning forum over at Dell Street before this, because there was just, it's a wonderful thing that happens when you actually have people talking about issues and challenges and things that are going on and how we can make things better. And it was just very uplifting to see that transpire and then to come here tonight and talk about this article, because I feel, my whole career, my whole life has been in communications and community engagement, getting people involved in the community. That is who I am as a person. It is part of my core values. So I'm not coming at this as sort of trying to dictate something that people don't want. I really feel that I watched it happen in action when people have the opportunity to voice their opinions and their concerns, that good things happen from that. So that's really the foundation of why this article came about. When you look at our town meeting is a deliberative process. It is literally a very large public hearing. People have the chance to get up, they have a chance to go to the mic, they have a chance to speak, they have a chance to offer opinions. With the school committee, you have a difference between a public hearing and a public meeting. There's a very big difference between the two. With a public hearing, it is constitutionally from the 1600s designed so that the public can be heard, so that the public can go, offer their opinions before a decision or some kind of major change is made. Hearing is always focused on something very specific, whereas the public meeting, you have a number of things on the agenda. It's really at the discretion of the chair whether or not they want to even allow public comment. Any public meeting can say, we're not going to have any public comment tonight. And but at a public hearing, that the very nature of it is designed to hear from people when there's something going on, or if there's a decision to be made. It's not lumped in with 5 or 6 or 7 other items. And also with our school committee, we now have a policy where even during the public comment, it's limited to 15 minutes and each person has 3 minutes. And it's really could be about anything at this point, whether it's on the agenda or not. So if you do have one particular issue that's of concern to a lot of people, and I'm talking 25 or more, even that 15 minutes is only limited to 5 people that can actually say anything. Whereas a public hearing, everybody who attends that hearing and has something to say about a particular issue or topic at hand, everybody has to be heard. One of the things that came up when this was coming together was, what is the right number of people? Well, when you consider that for a town meeting, only 10 people need to sign a citizen's petition for, for issues that a lot of us talked about this, for issues that we're afraid that could become token issues, where people go to school committee and 10 people would request a public hearing for issues that are maybe not really important to a larger community. So we looked at that and said, okay, well, let's double it and add it. So we said 25 is probably a good amount, because that would take some effort and it would have to be an issue that people were very concerned about and wanted to make sure that they had the chance to be heard. I'm going to give you a couple of real examples of things that happened here in our town where having a public hearing would have been critical. And we've talked about this. The Warrant Committee has talked about this actual historical event. When we increased the 2019 school budget from 5.92% to 6.16%, we had a public hearing. The school committee had a public hearing, the first vote on the initial number. But then at their actual regular school committee meeting, they went ahead and increased that to 6.16%. People in the community had no idea that was happening. For that amount of change, that amount of increase to happen to a school budget, we should have had another public hearing. before that was voted on again, and we didn't. There are other districts, Lexington, for example, is a district that actually has 2 public hearings on their school budget. I don't think that's always necessary, but in a case like this, where you had a warrant committee, you had a board of selectmen that were absolutely against this budget increase. It was a mistake not to have another public hearing on this particular change in the budget. So that one was one that really jumped out at me at the time. We had another example where we extended as the school committee voted and extended the elementary school day by 30 minutes. That was another thing. They had already done a survey to the community. There were a substantial number of people. I looked at all the survey results. There were probably roughly 40%, 40% of the people who filled out the survey who were against this extension of the school day. We did not get numbers, financial numbers on what the financial impact would be. We did not get the chance to hear what the teachers thought about this increase. There were a lot of concerns in the survey that never really came to light. And that was another thing that really, we should have had a public hearing on that, because it had a huge impact on teachers, on the school day, on the budget. And that was something that would have benefited by having some public input. And then I'll just give you the third one. You know, we have more recently pandemic related ESSER money. When that money was allocated, every school district in the Commonwealth was supposed to provide public comment about how that money should be spent. Some districts held public hearings on that just to get feedback. You know, we're going to get this amount of money for pandemic relief. How do you think we should be spending this money? Where do you think the priorities are? We never had anything like that, and I don't even know what we submitted to DESE in terms of how where the public comment came from for those allocations. So those are just some examples. I think that, you know, for public hearings, the town boards, committees, and commissions always have the discretion when they want to schedule a public hearing or a public forum. Public hearing usually comes with legal terminology, which basically just means it requires advance notice, you know, in a newspaper, online publication, so that people know about it far in advance. There's no sense in holding a public hearing and then, you know, sticking to a 48-hour notice. And if it's a big issue, people don't know about it and they only see it on a meeting notice, it kind of defeats the purpose. You can't really get people to come out. And that's why for the public hearings, they have these notice requirements. So there's no legal reason to stop any committee from being asked to hold a public hearing by a number of citizens. There's some statutes for school committee that require public hearings, mostly for school choice and mostly for the budget hearing. But that's really those are the only 2 legally required public hearings for school committee. I just think we owe it to the community that there's an issue that's big enough that they really want the school committee to hear feedback. But it's important to give people the opportunity.
Yeah. I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to overwhelm everybody. So I'll let everyone else ask questions and then I'll come back at the end. So who wants to go first? You want to go first? Okay.
You mentioned the ESSER funds, and that came into the town. So should the town be part of this? Why just the schools?
There was a school portion of that, though. There was
Well, I know, but oh yeah, okay, there was, but the town had a portion as well. So why wouldn't this equally apply to the town, not just the school?
Well, I think in this instance, the actual law from the Department of Education spoke specifically to the district. I don't think there was a town requirement to collect public comment, but there was a school district requirement to collect public comment on how the money was going to be spent. So I didn't think about the town just because I knew that that DESE required it.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's I'm trying to word. I'm reading the like down the size here. Yet there is no language in either policy that defines any matter of concern to the community that determine that how a hearing is deemed advisable. So I guess if you're a member of the school committee, you would make a determination to determine whether I should have a public hearing based upon the 5 people and their, whether it's common sense or whatever they thought rose to the level of this is so important, we've got to get everybody a wider sample. But basically, the school committee has been charged with the responsibilities for making those decisions. And now any person, regardless of whether it's rises to the level of public hearing or not, can get 25 signatures and ask for a public hearing on any subject, anything, whether it's it can be on any school line item, budget, on anything. It has to. And what are the parameters here? Because you're talking about the school budget, superintendent performance, and district educational goals and policies. Well, when it comes to the school budget, presented in December, there is a public hearing in January. There is a warrant committee review, then there is another public hearing just in March 6th for the schools. And so there's opportunity there for public hearings to understand the budget. And there could be changes. I mean, we left the March 6th meeting and basically asked the schools to add or subtract another 123,000. I'm thinking of your example of, well, we changed they changed the budget after the public hearing. Well, they just changed it in the other direction a week ago. So, you know, I'm just concerned that we'll get into areas that are really the province of the school committee, and we could be wasting a lot of time if we have people who are just going to challenge everything. A superintendent's performance, you know, I can't for the life of me think of 25 people who have an opinion on the school superintendent, because they don't work with that superintendent all year long. It's the school committee. And that's certainly, I mean, they do their performance review in the executive session, and then they come to the public. Educational goals and policies, I don't know, that's a little bit more gray. I just am concerned that this could get unwieldy.
Well, I think 25, again, if you have 10 people that are only required for citizens petition for town meeting. And 25, I think is if you have 25 people who are concerned about a pending decision or something that the school committee is planning or talking about before they make a decision. I mean, I'll give you another one, bus fees. You know, they're looking at bus fees. It's a big issue. And there's nothing that's going to require our school committee to hold a public hearing before they vote on bus fees, but they should. 25 people, I don't think is that much of a that low of a threshold that people would abuse it. And also too, and just in terms of the paragraph in the warrant, that language in terms of being heard on the topic at hand under school committee authority is really just meant to reflect legal authority of school committee. And purposely not get away from any kind of ancillary issues that fall under wouldn't fall under the purview.
Can I maybe steer the questions a little different direction?
Got some questions.
So, yeah. So, you know, I'm curious, I appreciate that you sent us the motion that, you have, but when I read the article, it talks about this option of a charter or a bylaw, and we don't have any specific wording, for either option. So I know you said you were working with your lawyer, your personal lawyer, to figure that out, I guess. And, you know, I do think that, you know, notwithstanding maybe your view that that's not important, I think, at least for me, it's important to understand what that motion is. We're being asked to advise town meeting and make a recommendation. So having a broadly worded article at this point is to me is kind of problematic, because I don't know what the motion is going to be on the town meeting. So, and having specifics, you know, depending on which option you go down, whether it's the charter or the bylaw, having some more specificity and eliminating options, I think would help us, at least me, get educated on exactly what it is you're trying to do. The question I have, though, is does such a bylaw or charter provision exist in any other Massachusetts municipality, basically, for a publicly elected committee? Like, is what you're proposing, has it been done before?
Specifically for public hearings?
Yeah, but your article is proposing to require a public hearing
Right.
of a publicly elected body. Has that been done before in any municipality in Massachusetts?
Not specifically for public hearings, but I have seen citizens petitions specifically asking for putting forth articles for school committee changes, for the school committee to take certain types of actions, but not specific to a public hearing, not specific to a public hearing.
Okay.
That involved amending a bylaw or a town charter, or just saying, we really want the school committee to have a hearing on X, Y, Z?
No, it was a citizens, they're citizens petitions that were put forth requesting something, some action from the school committee. I don't remember whether it was put forth as a bylaw or a charter, but it was specifically asking a school committee to take a certain kind of action. I have to go back and look through my research that I did.
But it would be helpful to know if it was in a charter or a bylaw where they were obligated to take that act. It's one thing to have a petition and then leave the authority to the committee to decide how to dispose of it. It's another to require it in an actual bylaw or a charter provision. So that's one question I have is has that been done anywhere in Massachusetts for either? It doesn't need to be a school committee, like a select board or something like that. You don't know yet, but the other question I had was
Just go back to the question.
Yeah.
So, I think the complicating factor is, and this is what town council and I had talked about, is that because the warrant is basically saying is really speaking to the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen don't have jurisdiction really over school committee. So the rationale for looking at the charter change was because the charter speaks specifically to school committee, whereas the town bylaw is more under the selectmen's jurisdiction. And so but the town charter does speak specifically to the duties and the responsibilities of school committee.
Right.
So it would fit into the town charter, in my opinion. When I was looking at this and analyzing it and talking to different people, it would make more sense to have it be a town charter change, because that does dictate the responsibilities.
Yeah. And has your lawyer advised you on how you do that? How do you make a change to a charter?
Town council did.
Town council did, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a law, I guess, chapter 43B, section 10. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but there's some pretty specific, things you have to do to amend the charter there. And they require, believe it or not, a public hearing. And there are time periods that you have to comply with, and it's pretty involved, and I'm not, I mean, I have a question about whether that can be accomplished between now and town meeting. So there's things you have to do before you get to town meeting. So you might want to study that law.
I thought the town meeting was the first, my understanding from my research was the town meeting was the first step. And then the steps followed after town meeting. You had to get the.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you what Mark told me, that this is a concern he had, you know, so that would be one thing I would just suggest you make sure you get everybody on board with. The other question I had was, have you reached out to the school committee to get their views on this?
Quite honestly, no, because after they were pushing to do away with a public comment policy, there was some very intense lobbying of them to basically try and convince them not to dismantle their existing public comment policy. So it gets to be exhausting trying to say, you know, you've had this public comment policy forever, where you allowed people to speak before you took significant votes. And they wanted to take that away. They wanted to remove that ability of people to be able to speak up 3 minutes before they voted on significant issues. And to me, that just.
My understanding is they didn't end up doing that.
They did
right?
not end up doing that.
Okay.
They did not end up doing that, but the fact that was being pushed so strongly forward, I'll be honest, it just didn't give me a whole lot of motivation, and I'm gonna say, okay, let's talk about this.
I mean, do they have, I guess the question I have, do they have what is their policy now? Like, can any school committee member add an agenda item to the agenda? Like one individual school committee, I'm assuming, can add an agenda item to the agenda.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I think David,
We should find that out.
I think it's only the emergency. You have to publish your agenda in advance. That's gonna say, these are the 4 things we're gonna talk about. And I think they.
Yeah, but in advance, if a school committee member says, I want to, like, if anybody on this committee wanted to put something on the agenda, they would tell me and we put it on the agenda. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, in advance.
Extraordinary happens.
In advance, do they have does a school committee member have the ability to add something to an agenda?
No.
They don't, okay,
No.
okay.
You have the authority if, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak out of turn, I apologize. If one of the members of the warrant committee asks you to put something on the agenda as chair, you hold the authority whether or not to place that item on the agenda. So the chair sets the agenda.
Okay,
Sorry, right. And
I would listen to them, obviously.
and what also complicated matters is that historically, any citizen in the community forever, since you've been in town for 30 years.
Yeah.
Any citizen could go to a school committee member and say, I would like to have this topic on the agenda. And the policy used to be, the practice used to be that would then go forward. And 9 times out of 10, it would get put on it would in fact get put on the agenda if you requested it. Sometimes they would put it under a public comment. But I don't think I've ever seen them actually put it on the agenda. They just put it under a public comment. They took that away in this latest change of policy. And now the agenda setting policy is basically that both the school committee chair and the superintendent decide together what's going to be on the agenda.
Okay.
And so if you're, as a citizen, you're asking, or as a school committee member, you really want something to be on the agenda. Now the school committe chair and the superintendent will to be. And I know.
And does the public, I'm sorry, I just had a question on the public. If they notify the chair that they would like something added to the agenda, presumably the chair would consider that and make a decision whether they want it on the agenda or not, right? I'm assuming that's their policy, right? Anybody can contact the chair and request something to be on the agenda. I mean, a public forum, I know it's not a public hearing, but in my mind, they're similar except for a notice, right? I mean, a public forum and a public hearing are essentially the same, except you have to do a notice for a hearing. So there, I mean, there are examples where I can think of recently, like they have had public forums. Or maybe even hearings like around all the COVID issues, you know, there were a lot of apparent interest in all the COVID issues, and they had multiple, you know, forums on that. You know, the example of books recently, you know, that was one, a great configuration. I mean, there are situations where they do have these, you know, they do seek public, you know, there are different ways to get public input besides having a hearing. It doesn't have to be a hearing. You can get public input from a lot of different ways, but.
But the important thing about that, though, is historically, those types of forums have been held reactively and not proactively.
Mhm.
So what'll happen is all of a sudden people will get up in arms about a certain issue, they're fired up, you know, then all of a sudden it's like, let's have a public forum instead of saying, gee, we have this issue on the table that we're debating about. Let's have a public forum. Let's promote it, you know, 2 weeks in advance so that people know about it. So we can actually bring people in, so we can actually listen to you and hear what you think before we actually go any further.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that's the beauty of the notification piece, is that if there's a topic that you know is starting to be discussed and you think as a citizen, gee, wouldn't it be great if we had the opportunity to weigh in on this before it goes too far? It gives people enough advance notice to allow them to do that instead of being a reactive, you know, people are fired up, you know, it's much more democratic, it's much more sane, and actually, and it saves time, it saves money in the time and money in the long run.
Yeah.
And it makes people feel more trustworthy. It makes people feel like they want to be more engaged. It has so many ancillary benefits besides,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. One, I'll just ask one more question and then Jeremy can, yes, sorry. So,
Yeah, you've covered a lot of my questions.
okay, all right. So, I learned that, I guess, in 2020, there was a citizens petition, I think that you had sponsored, that had a similar in the sense that it required public hearings for any public body in the town.
Yeah.
And that petition didn't go anywhere because kind of COVID came and they kind of said, we're only dealing with financial article, you know, at town meeting, but as I read it, you know, back then it was for any public body, and it was just for, I guess it was just 10 signatures at the time. And I asked Mark, because I have this sort of question about, it's sort of a philosophical question. Can you demand a publicly elected committee? You know, can you impinge on their authority basically by, you know, inserting yourself on their agenda setting process, or when, you know, tell them when to do things? And I think, you know, Mark told me that he did look into this issue when that first citizen petition came up, and that he made a phone call to the Attorney General, and I think he shared this with you, according to him, that there was a concern that this was not, that it impinged on, you know, the committee's authority, and that you know, from what he understood, that it was not consistent with state law. So I'm just curious, have you looked into that with your lawyer? Have you had any discussions with the Attorney General about whether this is, I know it's not, it's limited to the school committee,
Right.
so it's narrower, but
It is narrower, and that was the main reason that this was specific to school committee, because I think it's different from the research that I've done. It's different. The rules are different for school committee than it is for other public bodies.
it would be helpful to know how it's different.
Yeah.
If you could share that with us.
Yeah.
You know, if whatever research your lawyer's done or you've done on it would be helpful. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You covered a lot of things. I don't think I have any questions per se, just some concerns with it. In that, you know, as Steve mentioned earlier, it's bylaw change or charter change, it's not specific. And there's no wording proposed for either. And the changing the bylaw as opposed to changing the charter are two different things, there's two different procedures for that. I wouldn't be comfortable supporting anything without having some specifics. And, you know, for some of the reasons that Steve just mentioned, I kind of question the legality of this. And, you know, that could be challenged.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you could share, you know, share whatever you can around that issue. We're not gonna vote on this tonight, but we have time to kind of think about it and deliberate on it. And I will mention, we probably should talk to school, school committee, just to get their perspective on it.
And I don't know, the term public hearing is a vague one, and it can mean different things to different people. And is generally, you know, when it's mentioned, you know, some board must do a public hearing, it actually kind of defines it in it. You know, just the fact of having a public hearing doesn't necessarily mean there's no place to good definition out there. You know, reference national acts for public hearing, it gives you the notice period and what a board can do or can't do. It's not well defined. So again, the wording, specific wording of what would be changed in the bylaw or charter matters.
Yeah, that's important because, you know, it makes it binding, right? Which I'm assuming is what you want. So otherwise, you know, we're dealing with something that's very broadly worded, and I don't know how you get to, you know, the path to get to what you want. So,
Well, I mean, although.
unless, I guess it could be non-binding, a non-binding referendum, but,
Yeah.
but, you know, it sounds like that's not what you want, so.
But I also think that in talking with town council, and this was a while ago, so back in January. This seems specific enough for, like, if you actually look at the town charter with regard to the roles and responsibilities of school committee, this is specific enough to fit in with.
I'm not sure there's nothing in quotes, like you're not replacing this language with that or inserting this specific language in that. It's a.
Yeah, well, in other words,
vague.
you know.
It seems more like a
I think
resolution.
Mark could help you
Actual-
craft something, you know, I think if you need help, he did it with very effectively.
What Steve was saying, trying to be as discreet as he can be, and I'm not good at discussion, is that Mark Sorrell has communicated that he has concerns about the form of this. And that will be pretty important when we come to town meeting. So it behooves you to at least not have questions as to form. To get together with Mark Sorrell and try and see if you and he can reach agreement on the form of this. Because I think right now where it's headed is, it might not even be entertained because it's not in proper form. So I'm being unbelievably blunt here, probably Steve's gonna chew me out later. But I don't think you can say either the town charter or the bylaw, because that conveys this direction to nobody to do anything. You have to say, we're gonna amend the bylaw to do blah, or we're gonna amend the charter to do blah. I don't think you can say one or the other.
No, that I understand.
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but my primary concern is that we're talking about an elected body. And I think the most democratic process is through the election. And I'm not sure why this wouldn't be addressed by electing the candidates who are responsive, or that we are electing candidates who are responsive to the needs and the desires of the community. So my question, I guess, is why doesn't the election process address the concerns if it's felt as though the committee, this specifically elected committee, is unresponsive?
Is that question for Chris or me?
Just, as I said, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. That's it.
Comment,
It's
okay, okay.
it's a comment that I feel as though this belongs with the election of the people who are on the commission. They're elected.
Another hour.
Yeah.
Right.
You-
I think that is, we could talk about this for a while. But I won't.
Well, if there's anything you want to say that doesn't take an hour, feel free to say it now. I mean, you know, you're here, so.
I just think, you know, I've been to, I've said this, and I'm only saying this because I have a very, I think, a unique perspective on how our school committee has operated for a very long time, because I've gone to all the meetings for the last 10 years. I've been very involved in the schools since 1995, 96, on site councils, doing communication surveys, working on Metro West adolescent survey results. I've been involved on very, very different levels, and I've seen the inner workings for a very long time. And the one area that I feel is difficult to overcome is the true, genuine desire to have community engagement on difficult issues. And I have watched it over and over again hurt our community, because things blow up, things end up taking longer, they end up causing divisiveness. And when you have, like tonight, with this wonderful focus group that we had before I came, you can see what happens when people have an opportunity to come together and you put challenges on the table and you actually can talk about them in an open setting. It is very therapeutic. It allows people to come together, and it heals divisiveness. And I've seen way too many instances where it's been reactive, and the proactive strategies of having communication and engaging the community have not happened. And I know professionally, I've been trained by the most amazing supervisors, workshops through my entire career about how to do this right. And it upsets me, because I know that good things happen when you engage the community and when you engage people before decisions are made. And so I'm passionate about it. And I think it's, you know, this may not be the right path, but I'm committed to trying to figure out how to do it.
Okay, okay. Well, I appreciate your, you know, you explaining that. That's good. Are there any other questions for Chris while she's here? Anybody? Sharon, you all, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I have one statement about the examples that Chris gave at the beginning about the FY 2019 needed for a public hearing about the budget. There was one, it was the warrant hearing. I know it wasn't a school called one, but that was an extremely well attended warrant hearing, and it was pretty engaged. So I do think that that was there. So I think that depending on the topic, the right place for a hearing isn't necessarily at the school committee. And then other than that, I just echo what everybody else said. I don't think we can vote on this until there's actually a motion and determine the legality of this is important before anybody votes. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming in. And you know, anything you can do to maybe think about some of these process type issues, maybe work with Mark or whatever. Get back to us, that would be helpful. Okay, thank you. All right, so
Can I call back up for 1 second?
yes, please do.
So this is what I get for presenting to you without my notes in front of me, which I couldn't find when we were talking about the noise control bylaw. So it is only commercial. I would list to you the current restricted, which is operation of earth moving or other heavy vehicles,
start up or idling of any diesel engine equipped vehicles with gross vehicle weight of 15,000 pounds or excess, construction, demolition, or alteration, including excavation, operation of any wood, brush, chipper, powered equipment, tool, hammer, chainsaw, power mower, trimmer, blower, other construction, forestry, or landscape equipment. And all of you can keep mowing your lawns till 9 o'clock because you are exempt if you are doing regular maintenance on your own property.
Personally.
Personally, yes. Individual property owners doing it yourself, and you're okay to shovel your driveway.
Okay, now having
So
having heard what you just heard, does anybody want to revote the vote? We can,
just.
or do you want to just stick with, I mean, even if one person wants to revote it, we'll do a revote, we'll rescind the prior vote and do another vote. But because I didn't want anybody to be misled, so. Everybody's comfortable with their vote?
Everybody's good?
Okay, got it, okay. Bob and Sharon, you're fine?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, great, okay. All right, well, thank you for correcting the record on that. Thank you. All right, well, I think we're through, we can save these financial articles to the next meeting, and get through those, I think, the other financial article, we got through the big one, so. Is there anything else you wanted to add besides that, Christine?
No, I have.
Update from town finance?
Other than you have a last meeting before we go print on the warrant, or I might have mentioned that a few times.
Yes, so our next meeting, we really have to make it a priority to vote the financial articles first. And then we'll go into the other article discussions. And I am probably leaning towards having a meeting on the 25th. Just to clean up any votes on some of these citizen petitions and things that we need to vote on before town meeting. So we'll have two more meetings. There'll be the 11th. And we have the water articles, and then getting through all the votes on the financial articles. And then the 25th will be your next meeting before town meeting. And I think informational items, I just had a couple things. Bob and I have been working on a warrant letter that will go in the warrant from the Warrant Committee as co-chairs. I'm going to send a draft of that around to everybody. We're not looking for you to edit it. It's been heavily edited already. But just so in case you see anything in there that you strongly object to, let us know. Your name is, the letter's not from you, but your name is listed as a Warrant Committee member on the letter. So I thought you'd make sure your name's spelled correctly. That's an important item. So I'll be sending that around. And then we will be doing the same presentation we did at the warrant hearing. We're going to do that again, Bob and I, for Medfield TV. But you've already seen that, so. And then I don't know if you have an update on the school building committee?
Sure, I have some quick highlights. School building committee, last meeting, the date was.
Last Thursday.
It's Thursday, yes. Some real highlights were that we have elected co-chair, Dr. Meredith Chamberlain has been elected co-chair, Mike Weber. So we have two specifically named co-chairs of the committee. Also, a subcommittee was formed, basically to kind of name the community engagement committee subcommittee. I believe that was 4 members of the school building committee joining that committee. And their purpose is to kind of brainstorm and think about how we're going to engage the community through the process, letting them know information, getting community feedback. And the update or the deadline to submit to the MSBA is 14th of April. And so that is being circulated. And the statement of interest is being circulated and kind of formulated by the school building committee, and that'll go out as well.
Great. Anything else? Anybody else wants to add? Okay. Mr. Sliney. Would you like to make your
Motion to
favorite motion?
adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, there's a second. Let's go around.
Yes.
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 Bob
Yes.
and Sharon.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you all. We are adjourned.